All right, let's get this show on the road.
Okay. Welcome back to Georgia Peachcast, coming to you from Cherokee County, Georgia. This is Pat.
And this is Greg.
Okay. A quick note, just FYI, the city of Woodstock was pressed the other night in their council meeting to answer what was what is Woodstock City's position on dealing with ICE in the city. No straight answer came back at the beginning. They will continue to be pressed. They agreed at the end that they would contact their lawyers, their legal staff, who will check with the state and then come back with a status of how they will be dealing with ICE, which is interesting from the standpoint that they didn't know how to deal with ICE, and ICE has been here for already a couple of months and actively in the city of Woodstock gathering up people. So why you don't know how to deal with them and what your status is and what you're supposed to do legally, both federal law and state law, is a little bit of a surprise, but maybe not too much of a surprise.
Well, I would argue that since they're dithering, that their plan was to do nothing. That's my take, for what it's worth.
No, that to me would be the answer to the question.
Oh wait, we have to check with our lawyers.
Right.
We have no idea what we're doing.
All right. Okay. Well, beyond that, the main subject of the day is our guest speaker or guest, Chris Harden, who is running for a U.S. House Representative in place of Barry. I call him. I'll stay with Lara Milk. There's other names, but we'll go with Lara Milk.
Waldo. Where's Waldo?
Okay, Waldo. So
he's busy
Chris,
leading more tours of the Capitol.
Welcome to our podcast. And
thanks for having me.
Why don't you give us a little idea of why you jumped into the race as a one thing? And
yeah, well, I mean, I think Martin Luther King said it, in one of his quotes, which was, "We'll remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." And we're in a point right now where we can no longer be silent. We're watching the Constitution continuously get trampled on, and as an attorney, I swore an oath to defend that Constitution. And that's why I'm jumping in. It's like watching or drinking from a fire hose, watching the news nowadays. And every day it's a new constitutional violation or due process violation or equal protection violation, and
right.
And you just can't sit back and be silent anymore.
No, you can't stand on the sidelines any longer. Anybody standing on the sidelines is not doing anybody any justice, including themselves and their families.
Right.
And I like your analogy about the fire hose, because it's not water that's coming out of there; it's a whole different kind of stuff.
It's a lot. Yeah. It is a lot, and it's by design. That administration is doing it by design.
If we're reacting to 8,000 things, we're not watching the things we should be watching.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that was Steve Bannon said that.
Well,
flood the zone,
and that's another reason why I want to get in. Right, I want to bring some civility back to this. At least the CD11, if we can't, all of America, But I think everybody's a little bit tired of being angry at their neighbors and their friends and family, and colleagues. Yeah. And I think everybody is wanting, at least just to get rid of the chaos. Just get back to some normalcy.
They have created such a division. The division was obviously there to begin with, but they have exploited it to beyond the point of civility. It's just out of hand. Yeah. So anyway, Chris, maybe you want to say a little bit about your background so they know who you are.
Yeah.
Other than your name.
Well, I don't come from advantages. I come from a 3-bedroom trailer in North Georgia, and
there you go.
We didn't have a lot of wealth or connections, but we had hard work, love, and determination. So. We was able to get out of that, and I contribute my getting out of that situation due to my education. I went to Georgia State University, and that's where I got I graduated from Ridgeville High School, which is in a little small town up there called Rossville, Georgia, at the foothill of Lookout Mountain. Then I was able to, I worked a lot of blue collar jobs.
Right.
If you're wondering, I am forklift certified, so
Hey,
I've got that
you're
going.
used to heavy lifting.
But then we went on down to Georgia State, and we got our political science pre-law degree and a minor in history. And then from there, we went to Atlanta's John Marshall Law School, and where we got our JD. And now I've been a parent attorney or a defense attorney in juvenile courts for over a decade. And
Oh, Garden of Young, I love it.
that's right. And now my wife and I, we also have a estate planning and probate firm where we help people, protect their assets that they've built their entire careers. And we're raising 5-year-old triplets.
Whoa!
You're
I don't know
kidding.
what's going on. That's
Whoa,
right.
are they? What? Boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl.
We got one girl and 2 boys. So
There
if
you
you
go.
want to talk about affordability on groceries and child care and health care,
Oh, yeah.
I am the right man to talk to. So.
I understand. I have twins. So
Yeah.
they
Oh,
just,
okay.
They
Yeah.
just turned 23. So
That's awesome.
we're
That's
working on the
awesome.
empty
Yeah.
nester part. But
Gee,
it is.
That's tough. That's tough.
Well,
It
a lot
is.
of people don't realize that. They hear, "Oh, you had triplets." Wow, but what they don't realize is that if you have triplets, like you need to hire someone, or you got to have live-in grandma. I mean, that is not a show that two parents can work and do that.
We are-
I
we are-
I don't know the answer. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I had a conversation. I've constantly been telling young people, okay, be careful about having children, spread them out for just psychological reasons, but also spread them out so you only get 2 in college. No, 2 in college at
Wait,
the
spread
same
them out. I
time.
thought you were talking about water balloon target practice.
And somebody came back to me and says, "Hey, guy, don't forget about college. You get more than 2 in daycare, and that'll kill you long before you get to college."
Right.
So you got 3. I don't know what you're doing.
Well,
Anyways,
and luckily, me and my wife, we're pretty fortunate that we are both attorneys, and we are able to afford a nanny, which it's cheaper for us to hire a nanny.
Yeah.
And then she is making more than she would if she was working at a daycare.
absolutely.
But
yeah.
there's so many people that are in the CD11 that aren't that fortunate.
No.
And one of the things we'd like to do is extend pre-K to, right now I think it's at 4-year-old, which mine just started pre-K, and they're in public schools. We'd like to extend that down to at least 3-year-olds, maybe get down to 2-year-olds.
We all heard, it's like, here we are, we consider ourselves a developed nation, we consider ourselves the greatest, but we're at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to that kind of care.
That's right.
And I don't think we can claim to be the best if we're not taking care of our children and making sure every child, no matter where they live, what their socioeconomic background is, has the support they need.
Yeah.
And the families, so that the families can continue to be, economically productive for society, but also, have the time and the resources to raise their kids well and have the support systems they need to do that.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, if you think about it, I know for a fact we had to do a lottery to get our kids into pre-K.
Yeah.
So not every kid in Georgia automatically gets to go to a
No.
pre-K, and they should.
Yeah.
Right, and that's one of my platforms. One, I want to re-strengthen the Department of Education that they gutted, and I want to expand it to make sure more kids get that opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's we already got overcrowded classrooms. Teachers are overworked, and we're not investing in our education the way we should. And that's the number one building block that we got to start with is with our education.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it all starts. It started with you.
That's right.
Up in North Georgia. I grew up in central New York, a little country high school, same kind of system, except I was surrounded by dairy farms.
Right.
We
got some of those up there.
That story of people working themselves up from simple beginnings, it is a lot more possible to make it more prevalent if we have the educational systems we need.
That's right.
So,
and coming from my background, I understand what it is that, to overcome in those situations where people are struggling. Whereas a lot of people, like I said, right now, my wife and I are fortunate enough we're not really struggling in the nanny situation.
Right.
But that's us.
Yeah.
I know that there's people out there.
Oh, yeah.
They're my family. They're my friends. They're our neighbors that are struggling to make it. And there's households that are, mom and dad, they're making the decision, does one of us stay home?
Yeah.
Because the child care is almost as much as if they were to go to take a second job.
Exactly.
You know?
Or it's non-existent.
Right.
In our rural areas, there's families that just don't have access to even family members that can help.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, it is so important. And, you know, that's one of the reasons we see the current administration, and there's been a tendency, I hate to say it, but on the Republican side to undercut education.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's deliberate.
That's right.
There's a plan there.
Right.
You know, and that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I'm an educator.
Right.
You know, I spent 27 and a half years in schools in Georgia, middle school and high school. Yeah. I saw it all.
Yeah.
And I saw how we underfunded education for years and years.
Yeah.
Particularly after the 2008 crisis. Oh, we don't have the money to put back in there. Are you kidding me? You're running surpluses for crying out loud.
Well,
so, you know,
Yeah.
and that's really, really important. I'm glad to hear you on that one.
well, and my family is they're my brother and his wife. They're both educators, and my mom, she just a few years ago was elected to the Board of Education in Walker
Sweet.
County.
Nice.
But no, it's what people don't understand about the gutting of the Department of Education is that yes, that's federal money, and some people get upset about it comes with strings. Those strings are making sure everybody gets an equal opportunity at education.
That is exactly right. Yeah.
Right? And if you don't have that federal money that supplements some of these areas, well, one, they're either going to have to cut. They're operating on that budget already.
Yeah.
So they're either going to have to cut that budget, and you're going to lose some schools, you're going to lose some teachers, you're going to lose some resources, or you're going to have to find that money somewhere else.
That's
And
right.
it's either going to be in state income taxes or it's going to be in your property taxes.
Yeah.
So if we don't reinforce the public education, it's going to hurt our education systems here.
Well, and our founding fathers were big fans of large-scale education publicly funded.
That's right.
You know, I mean, Ben Franklin was all in on that. I used to know a couple of others, and they were just like, look, you can't have a functioning democracy with an uneducated population.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's once again, there's deliberation in there and the desire to get rid of that. But, you know, and so anyway.
Anyway,
you know,
Chris,
it's a good thing.
So, yeah, education's great. I mean, that's important. Probably the bottom line, if you don't, as we just got finished saying, you guys just kept finished saying, if you don't start at bottom line, you're never going to get beyond that. What's another major issue that you intend to work on when you get elected?
Pat, let's keep it at the basics. We just got through education. Let's go to healthcare. I mean, if you're not educated, you need education to get through life, right? But you also need your health. And there's a lot of people who just lost their health care because they didn't extend the tax subsidies. And so a lot of people now can't afford the increase in the premiums and chose not to go with health care.
Yeah.
Right? And it's very unfortunate because I've been in that situation before the ACA come along, and I just would tell people I just don't get sick, you know?
Yeah.
And there's people choosing not to go to the hospital with broken bones.
Yeah.
Right?
I know.
So it's one
just
of those.
my toe.
But day one, we have decided not to wait. I've talked to my policy team, and we have came up with a bill that we can introduce so I can try to make a difference on day one. And that bill is going to be called the Healthcare Affordability and Competition Act of 2027. Now, what it's going to do is it's going to reinforce all the things that the ACA does. Now, the way we're looking at it is, I know a lot of people might want universal health care. That takes a whole nother campaign to do, right?
Baby steps.
This is already passed. The ACA is passed. We need to reinforce it.
Exactly.
We need to keep the pre-existing condition protections in place. We need to bring back those tax subsidies.
Yes,
but,
we do.
But temporary, because those are really a Band-Aid. What we really want to do is figure out a way to work ourselves off of that, and that's going to take market solutions.
Right.
One of the things that we are going to do in this bill in particular is that we want to make it to where small businesses can group together either by industry or by region so they can negotiate healthcare prices.
Right.
Just like a Fortune 500 company, like Home Depot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Home Depot can go in and say, hey, we've got X number of employees. What kind of deal can you make us?
Yeah, that's basic insurance economics. The larger the pool is, the better you can negotiate.
That's right.
So it's
but
like
small businesses can't do that.
Yeah, I'm in the teachers' retirement system of Georgia, but I still have the state health benefit plan.
Right.
Okay, and why is that such a great insurance plan? Is because it's got a humongous pool of people.
That's right.
And that's
and what you do is
that's a great idea to pool people together as much as possible.
And it's a market solution. So if you ever wonder why I call myself a moderate Democrat, the moderate part is because I still believe in market solutions for economic problems.
Yeah.
Right. And this is one of those where we can kind of, if we can get more competition into the insurance company or into the healthcare system, then we can drop down prices and we can improve packages, right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm competing against you, Pat, and my prices are up here and yours are down there, then I might have to adjust, or especially if you're offering something different. So now we all need to start figuring out, that's what competition does. It drives prices down.
Yep.
And then if the prices get, the premiums get lower, we don't necessarily need the tax subsidies that they can just vote out from under us anytime they want, right? Or use as a political football.
Yeah, the health industry, like so many of others, are now there is no real competition across the board.
That's right.
They consolidated. They bought up little ones and.
Yep.
Bought and joined a bunch. So you're only down to a few that you can actually do. So you've got to fight that with some way, create that competition that needs to be out there.
And we want to break up the monopolies, right? There's also the vertical integrated healthcare systems. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say that?
No, I don't. But go ahead.
So CVS owns Aetna. They also own the prescription company. So you go to their doctors, then you go to their pharmacies, and then you go and buy their drugs.
Yeah.
So it's a captured system, and that's just one system. And then there's other systems that have their own captured thing as well, and so they can even fix prices if they want. So you're trapped in their monopolies. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So there's no competition there, and
it's a modern version of a company town.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You go to the company store and you buy everything there.
And that's another point. I mean, there's a lot of monopolies in our current economy. So it's not just the tariffs. The tariffs are horrible. The tariffs are horrible. We need to get rid of them. And the Supreme Court said we need to get rid of them. But we've got industries that are only like 4 or 5 big companies that own them, right?
Yes.
The beef, the chicken, the dairy, now the entertainment industry, the healthcare industry. We need to break up these monopolies so we can get prices.
No, I mean you make a very good point in that system is deliberate.
Right.
It locks in profits across multiple points for them, and the fact. I was just listening to, my brother sent me a piece on YouTube, and it was initially blocked in publication, and YouTube decided to publish it, and it was exactly about agriculture. Agriculture, the machinery, the seed production, Monsanto. God, when they did that, I was so livid.
It was on 60 Minutes Sunday night.
Okay, and
the farm industry. The farmers are complaining exactly that.
Yeah.
They're now down to only a few that they can deal with, and they not having any choice as to what they have to pay.
Yeah, I mean this one
same
farmer.
Same thing in that. Yeah, it was just.
He was saying he's lucky to make $300 on an acre of work that he's done that year. I mean, I just am like only $300.
Yeah.
And he said that's a good year.
Right.
Like a lot of years they don't get that. Like they have to get subsidies from the government. Right. Like they don't even cut a profit.
Yeah.
And so, he the one farmer, he was like, look, the tariffs are horrible, but they're not the real problem. The real problem is the vertical integration. That
was it. That was exactly the point.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. Sure.
That was just like the tariffs just put a little bit more problem on it, but they already had a big problem there, which has to be solved.
Right.
And I'm sure that also has to do with not the farm industry in out west, farm industry in South Georgia. It's around the whole country. He's got to deal with the same problem.
Yeah.
You know, I think Trump talked about draining the swamp, and it seems like all he really did was drain the lobbyists. Now you can just go straight to him. And,
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't need lobbyists anymore. That's what we drained. You can just go straight to your congressman or senator or, you know, president and pay enough money, and, you know, there you go. So
And you know, you bring up a really good point. The lobbying arm was a form of corruption. I mean, you know, there's blatant corruption, when you look at it and you see it, you go, oh yeah, that's corruption. And then there's more subtle stuff, and lobbying is definitely a form of corruption.
Pam Bondi was a lobbyist.
Yeah. You know, I mean,
you know,
oh my gosh.
And she's the one in charge of making sure.
Oh my God! Don't get me started on that interview, man.
Yeah, I don't even want to ask. I don't
Well, I'm not
want to
talking
ask
about
a
hearing that was
Right.
just like, you know, she was like, she had my grandmother's double-barreled 16 gauge, and they were both filled with Karen.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was embarrassing.
I hate
as
to
hell.
even ask the question. I'm not going to ask the question. I hate that.
It's like I can see the Canadians sitting there, and the Europeans that are like, just bring me the popcorn, man. I'm enjoying the show.
Yeah.
You know, oh, well, Putin especially.
Yeah.
So,
You know,
but anyway,
somehow or another, we got to get money eventually, and that's a long-term one. Okay,
Right. Yeah.
Get the money out of politics.
well, and
Absolutely.
there's been lots of efforts to do that.
I know.
and unfortunately, you know, McCain, Feingold, and the other efforts to get money out of politics were just too ineffectual in the end.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get people to vote against their self-interest.
Yeah,
You know, and
there's shallow self-interest.
well, you know, and I thought of a way of getting around that might be that grandfather the people in right now, but it changes once you lose your seat. Whoever comes in now, you know, like term limits and things like that a lot of people want to push that are going to be really, really tough to do. I mean, some situations like term limits are going to probably require an amendment from the Constitution, which that's a mountain, not a hill to climb. That's you know, the whole other thing.
Well, you got to have complete control of both houses and and a president that's willing to go along with it.
Right.
And you know, not to mention ratifying across the country. So and that you're right, that is a mountain.
Yeah,
it's a good mountain.
Yeah,
you know, but
and there's a lot of things that I would love to do, like, you know, universal health care or term limits or things like that. But I'm wanting to affect change now, right?
Well,
and there's incremental changes that we can make. That's why instead of trying to just bring in universal health care, we look at the ACA. How can we fix it? How can we reinforce it? You know, and we need to make sure that our safety nets.
It's a foundation.
Right.
You got to build on that foundation.
Well, and President
rather
Obama
than just do away with it.
President Obama said it best. You move the ball 5 yards at a time.
Yeah.
You don't win a game in one Hail Mary.
Yeah.
But we got to get all those things back in place, right?
We do.
You know,
it's being chipped
we
away
need
at.
all the things that Doge went in and cut as fraud, abuse, and waste. We need to get those back because it was not. We now know that wasn't what was going on.
Yeah.
We need to. All of our departments need to come back. The USAID needs to come back.
Especially the USA.
Yeah.
Almost to start with. Bring the US. That you got people, children. Actually,
the
dying.
callousness
That's
of it
another.
is the thing.
Well,
That's a tough one.
Callousness, that's actually the point.
That should not be a tough one to bring back.
Yeah.
especially when we realize that $10 billion just got or is in the process of going into the Board of Peace. That he's going to be the lifetime chair of, that Trump's going to be the lifetime chair of, just so they can turn Gaza into a beach resort.
Grand larceny right in front of us.
Yeah.
Right there.
Just dipped into the treasury and took the money.
Not to mention the other $10 billion he's suing the IRS for when he was president.
There's a lovely
So
thing. Think Pam's going to really fight that one?
right. No.
Yeah.
You know? So, but you know, I think that it's really, really important to remember that the wrecking ball is so much easier to destroy than to build.
Right.
And, you know, we saw it on the East Wing. I don't think they've touched it since.
Yeah.
But all of the things that were taken away that you're talking about
That's right.
are so important to put back as quickly as we can when if we gain a majority.
And I know that there's going to be some toothpaste we're not going to be able to get back in that tube.
No.
So, you know, I don't know
No, we're gonna.
It's not going to look exactly the same, but
we're going to have to make a new toothpaste.
That's right.
That's right.
We're going to have to set priorities. You guys would have to set priorities.
That's right.
Once you get in there.
Of course, we're going to have to buy the toothpaste making machine from China.
And there'll be a tariff.
November will be the key to the starting point. It's really it's the starting point of getting us back to where we have to be, which is going to take some time. We know that.
That's right.
I constantly say that I feel for you people who are much younger than me, because I'm not going to be around to see where it's going to go if you don't get there. So we got to get you and do the job this come November. Get it back to at least to the point where we can start.
That's right.
Yeah.
Where you guys can start to bring it back to where it was. And again, it's a starting point. Not everything is going to come back the way it was. It may, hopefully, in the long run, but in the short run, you gotta have to set the priorities as to which ones that can be done quickly, and that are the most important. And that's something that you're going to have to work on. And
well, the good thing is we got a bunch of young guys that are coming in and running for offices right now in Georgia. You got DeMont Walker, you've got Michael Heddick, you've got Jason Tanner. All these guys are coming in, and they're wanting to make a difference, and we're all young, and I want to say it's a new generation that's coming in that's been really needed. Because we're going to be facing different challenges that are coming up, like with AI, right? Like with cybersecurity.
Oh yeah.
Things like that our generation we grew up in. We were I know
exactly.
my generation was the first ones to have computers in schools.
Digital kids, we call them in education.
Yeah.
So
that's the good news out of the bad news. The good news is that the young crew and the new generation is coming up may not have come up if he wasn't doing what he was done and done it the way he's done it and forced it to happen.
Well, but
it would have taken a longer road.
The situation we're in with that, though, is owned by both Republicans and Democrats.
That's right.
But
okay, they've created a gerontocracy.
I know.
And I'm not an ageist kind of person, but you have to be working to pass on the torch to the next generation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you end up in the situation we're in,
Yeah.
which is a lot of people thinking that, or I should say, they're so familiar with their generational status quo, they can't imagine it being different. And we need to move that ball forward.
Yeah. And they will still be there.
Yeah.
They'll still be that generation to bring along the young ones, but you got to put the young ones in place to be there.
Well, yeah, you do.
If we leave the older generation in there forever, you end up with some of the problems that we've all agreed upon. Is that we sat back on our haunches for too long, and we let it come in and sneak in underneath us.
That's right.
So the good news again is that the young crew that's coming in, if they get the chance and the opportunity to start to make the changes necessary, we're all for it.
Well, and I'm just as guilty as that as well. Before his second term, I had no desire to run for office or get involved, and I was quite content just keeping my head down and just doing work and raising my family and things like that. And when he got back in office, and I couldn't believe that, I felt guilty because here I am with my education and my life experience, and I knew that this was happening, and yet I said nothing. I stayed quiet, you know, and that's why when we started this podcast off, I can't stay quiet anymore.
Yeah.
If I'm not out there talking, then I'm letting other people speak for me.
That's
and right now, I don't like the voices that are out there.
Silence is complicity in this case.
That's right.
Yeah.
So and I know that there's a lot of people out there that are just as frustrated as me that don't feel like anybody's fighting for us. Mm-hmm. Especially Loudermilk. I know he's said he's going to retire, but he's still in there for at least another year. And what's he going to do?
I still see Where's Waldo in the comics in certain newspapers, so I don't think he's going to retire.
So
So,
he's definitely not going to do what he's supposed to do.
Well, no one can figure out where he is, so he's never showing up to his office because Pat and his crew are there every single week.
That's right.
And he never shows his face.
I'm so glad Pat's on our side.
So, but you bring up a really good point. I have a childhood friend that lives in Idaho, and we were visiting them last week, because skiing, and one of the things that we have to fight. And this is where seeing you and people younger than you, 40 years old and down, stepping up and wanting to take charge of our government as much as they can to move the system in the direction it needs to go. One of the things we have to fight, though, is just this spirit of nihilism, that there's nothing that we can do. And that was my friend's, he was a Lockheed engineer. Mm-hmm. He's used to solving problems, right? And he's just like, look, there's nothing you can do. I mean, these people are just going to do whatever they want. And that is dangerous.
That is dangerous, and that's to some degree, yeah.
It's very heartening to see those young people stepping up and giving us, the energy we need to keep pushing.
Yeah. Well, and I think we were talking before we turned this on, about America is going through a stress test right now. Mm-hmm. There's been several stress tests that America's been through. This is definitely one of the most disruptive. Pat, you can probably remember the civil rights and all that, right?
I can go back even further than that. Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is, if you grew up in the 60s and 70s and you saw what was going on in the politics then, you probably would have thought that was the end of America. Couldn't imagine growing up during the Civil War. Yeah. There's no way you would have thought that we were going to make it through that, and yet we did. Mm-hmm. This is another one that is it's pushing us to our limits. We've got an administration that disregards the rule of law and the Constitution, and it is really putting a stress on us. But we still have some guardrails that are holding through. And if we can get through November and we can change, we can make a difference. Yeah. And I want to look at it positively like that we can make a difference, as opposed to if they don't have elections and all that other stuff. I mean, that is all possibilities, but I don't want to think about what happens when that happens, because then you're just talking civil rights.
And I can tell you from my generation, okay, we're depending on that happening, okay? Yeah. I'm at my age, that there's not a long time for that to happen. It's got to happen sooner for me to see it, but at least for my children, grandchildren, I hope that's what I'm working for. I spend my time doing it for them. I'm not doing it for myself at all.
Well, every generation has their challenges that they are that when we look back on history, we can see that they met that challenge. Yeah. The times I grew up in, all the decades I've been alive, and the generations of people that I've interacted with. I mean, we're living in the salad days. We didn't think we had to worry about any of that stuff. Yeah. And just like Pat said, we got complacent. We didn't realize the forces of, and I'll call it what I think it is, evil, were building in our society, but they weren't. And so, we didn't know the Koch brothers were setting up the Heritage Foundation and starting that ball rolling, So, but if you're exactly right, we got to meet the moment.
That's right.
And that's all our prior generations did. They stood up and they met the moment. Man, when I saw what happened in Minneapolis, there's a lot of steel in this country. There's a lot of backbone.
That's how I want.
And if they want to stir up that hornet's nest in other cities, we have a prime example of how to fight it. Yeah. They were amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, they are. I want to wrap up with just that point, okay? Again, kudos to the people in Minneapolis. If those people hadn't done what they've done and still doing it, okay, so much information and things that would have passed by and snuck in behind us and come underneath us, we would have never known about it. It came to the forefront. They're keeping it to the forefront, and you've got to give those people a hell of a lot of credit for it. And we have a responsibility to keep it going, to follow up on what they've already started and what they've been doing. So, Chris, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, you too, man. Yeah, this has been fun. I think we could have talked all night.
Oh, yeah. I would have had to order out some beer.
I'm down for that. We can do it again.
Okay.
Thanks for having me, though.
We can definitely do it again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we'll get down the road, There's a long time to go. You're going to have to come back. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to come back as we get closer to it, and things have changed one way or the other, and hopefully all in a positive side. Okay. All right.
So everybody go out May 19th. And vote in the primaries.
Yeah.
And don't forget, if you're hearing this now, you can still vote for, if you're not in if you're in the CD 14, you can still go vote for Sean Harris and get him across the.
Oh, Sean, I love that guy, man.
Yeah.
I've been donating to his cause since he started last year.
Yep.
And more of those experienced folks, regardless of what part of our government they come from. Of course, he's ex-military, but I'm just like, those people know what they're fighting for.
And he's a genuine dude. I mean,
I would love
Brigadier
to meet him
General.
sometime, yeah, I know. That's
Okay.
what we call high success.
That's right.
All right. Why don't we, Chris? Your website is chrisharden4congress.com.
That's right. And you can go and find
So
all the events
So
and
what
sign
we-
up to donate and sign up to volunteer. We're doing postcards, canvassing, all kinds of things. So you can go and sign up for all that stuff right there on the
Yep.
website.
And
All right.
that's what you should be doing.
We'll push it. We'll put that in the show notes.
Yep. Wrap it up.
All right, folks. Thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing. Well, we look forward to you hearing our voices next week. And stay safe out there.
Invite as many people as you would like to Georgia Peachcast.
That's right.
Good night.
I think that went good.
How many minutes?
Heck yeah, that was good.
We almost-
35 minutes.
That's what I thought.
36.
We've been doing 15 tonight.